Empathy and strategy can be powerful as a combination in leadership and in planning for a new year to work together to create an environment that's both people-focused and goal-oriented. And empathy allows leaders to understand the perspectives, the challenges, and motivations of their team members, fostering trust and open communication. It's also important to have self-empathy as a leader and as a business owner. And it's more important than ever with a workforce that's been given a lot of freedoms to work remotely with a great deal of trust. And when that empathy is paired with strategic thinking and planning, this understanding, it enables leaders to design plans that not only reach those organizational goals, but also align with the needs and the well-being of their team. By integrating empathy and strategy, leaders can create a culture where people feel valued and motivated, while also driving that organization forward in growth. So today, Greg and I together discuss some of those strategies in this episode. So stay tuned. This podcast is brought to you by DJ Works Media and HalftimeSuccess.com, offering resources and insights for those at mid-career or the halftime of life. Explore our diverse categories, including courses, coaching, health, music, software, and travel. We're here to help you make this stage of life your best ever. So get our new articles, downloads, and podcasts by signing up for weekly updates at goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Well, welcome to Greg to join me today on this wonderful subject. Thanks for being with us.
Hello, everybody.
And Greg's with me once a month. And so we are tackling another wonderful little subject, empathy and strategy. And it's a powerful combination, especially as this is being released and we are kind of driving toward the end of the year and we're starting to think about planning. And we do have a wonderful podcast also on tax preparing and all the things that you have to do at the end of the year. So talking about this is an important topic. Empathy for our team, for who we're working with, and also for ourselves. So why don't you describe what you were thinking of when we were talking about this?
Well, we were trying to come up with topics for the end of the year and think what businesses typically go through. And, the reality is especially if you have a year-end budget deadline, everybody's trying to push out as much as they can by December 31st. Which always creates the anticipated Christmas rush. And not only are your employees in panic mode, but your customers are in panic mode, and so are your vendors. And with all of that in mind, we thought, having empathy at this time of the year could be crucial, just to make it a little more enjoyable. But also, if you adopt an empathetic mindset, it'll impact your planning. Mm-hmm. So, how does that work? Well, first, you've got to push, and so you're going to be pushing your employees. Maybe taking a meeting and letting everybody know ahead of time that this is what's going to happen, and that you appreciate them, for the next 5-6 weeks, doing whatever it takes to help your customers succeed. Secondly, if you're empathetic with your customers, all of their late season demands become a little bit easier to understand. Unlike you, they probably haven't done the planning that they need to do. So they're going to get pressed, pushed, and the people who can serve them best are going to be remembered in the next year. So obviously being prepared for the unexpected is vital to meeting your your customers' needs. But third, and when you don't think about this a lot, but if your customers are leaning on you and you're leaning on your employees, then it flows downhill and somebody's leaning on their vendors. So your vendors are scrambling to meet all of your unexpected deadlines as well. Mm-hmm. And I think being prepared in the next year to thank them for their good service, their loyalty, their ability to bend over backwards and go the extra mile would probably be something to think about. So with all of that in mind, we came up with the topic of empathy, and that's what we mean. And mm-hmm. we're going to flesh it out from here.
Right. Well, that was an amazing introduction to this.
Oh, good.
I mean, it was so very pointed of all of the things that we've talked about. And I want to kind of focus in on appreciation as well.
Sure.
Because we talked about that appreciation, and that goes a long way when we're talking about empathy. And it doesn't have to be this standard, just slap on, okay, well, I appreciate you now do this, mm-hmm. But it's in tone and, that whole thing of we're talking about.
It's pretty standard in, our operations that we kind of recognize that there's 3 human emotional needs. And this will work for you if you put it into place. If you think of your employees, think of your vendors, and think about your customers, everybody loves to be appreciated. Mm-hmm. Everybody loves to be recognized, and everybody likes to be honored. Mm-hmm. And if you just stick those into the fabric of your year and look for opportunities to appreciate people, mm-hmm. And not just appreciate them privately, but then mm-hmm. go publicly and honor them. And when you're honoring, specifically recognizing what specifically they did, that goes a long way to keeping people motivated. And it's been shown in studies after studies.
Right.
People don't need raises as much as they need appreciation.
Right.
And if you want to, manage your payrolls better, mm-hmm. Try just the simple job of appreciating, recognizing, and honoring people, and your payroll will become under control.
That's such a great point, because we have read some of these studies as well. And you'll see some of these in the article. I read an article, and pretty much every single week there will be an article with this one. So, but there are definitely illustrations of those that have stayed with a company, not because they could get more money other places, or, they could jump ship. Mm-hmm. But they like the atmosphere, they like the appreciation that is demonstrated toward them. And with remote work right now, this is big. We do have a son who's with one company, and he wants to stay with that company because he can still work remotely. He'll end up going in the office a little bit, but he's in a field that he can do that. We have 2 sons that are kind of like that they can, but if they had to be in an office every single day, or there were a lot of demands on them,
right.
they'd probably be looking around, because they can make more money other places. And it costs, from the SHRM reports, it costs between 3 and 6 months, actually 6 and 9 months, to train somebody else. Retrain somebody. Yeah. And it's a big number. So as we think about, basically I have virtual assistants. I've had people in my office before as assistants, but, to train somebody else or to get them onto a system and to trust them again, that's emotional energy for me. Mm-hmm. And so it's worth it for me to, give them little incentives now and then to write the certificates of appreciation, right. All of those things, even in my little small way.
Yeah. And the reason she brings that up is because if you go into panic mode in November and December, and all of your plans kind of go out the window because you're just responding and not anticipating, mm-hmm. You're going to create unhappy employees. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of managers see how much work they get done during November just by screaming at people. And they think that becomes a model of management, and
Yeah.
somehow you can maintain that through 12 months. And, we can all hold our breath and put our heads down and work really, really hard for a short period of time. But that's an unworkable model.
Right.
It's especially an unworkable model in a social context where there's no real appreciation or honoring going on.
Right.
So what we're talking about with empathy is to step back and think about your employees. Step back and think about what you're asking them to do. Step back and think about your customers, and recognize that they are scrambling, trying to make their customers happy, and they're relying on you in order to get all of this done. And, instead of getting mad at your customers because they didn't plan, or they're being last minute, or they're being overly demanding, or, all of that kind of stuff, just step back and have a little empathy and realize they're probably struggling to survive, and they need somebody like you. And they're not going to be gracious. They're not going to, be proud of you, but, inside, you're going to help them, get their work done.
Right.
And the same thing with your vendors. Recognize that your vendors are scrambling to meet the needs of a bunch of other clients just as much. And maybe you're, General Electric, and you can demand that they drop all of their other customers and work on you. More than likely, if you're watching this video, you're competing against GE.
Yes.
And there's somebody much bigger than you trying to eat up all of your vendors' time.
Right.
So appreciate the fact that they are able to go the extra mile and take care of you at this time of year.
Yeah.
And that's what we mean by empathy. And I think empathy tends to lead to expressions of appreciation when the battle's all over, when everybody stops firing, the smoke is settling, sun's coming back out,
shaking hands.
Take a little time to give thanks for those people who helped you get through the battle.
Right.
And we've talked about vendors, we talked about our customers. Most importantly, think about your employees.
Right.
And I think something that we talked about is perhaps instead of giving them the week after Christmas off, finish up the year strong, and then give the week after New Year's. And maybe not off, but maybe you give them 2 days off, and hopefully you've done your first quarter planning during the fourth quarter. But, instead of hitting it hard again the first week of January, why not review your plans? Why not review the year? I never liked travel retreats, but you can do an in-house retreat where everybody gets dressed down, nice food's provided, and we just kind of chill and hang out and think through what's the next year need to be like. And, I think a healthy review of the year before, and, one way to honor people is to appreciate their opinions.
Yes. Listen.
Hardly anybody appreciates my opinion. Yeah, I appreciate the fact that you are listening to this. But I mean, if you think about how few people there is in your circle that appreciates your opinions, that another place for empathy is all of your employees have opinions. They just haven't been asked. And if they have been asked, they've probably kept it to themselves because they don't think expressing it would matter.
Yeah.
So, again, creating a culture where people feel appreciated and believe that their opinion does matter. Not all opinions are going to be appreciated. But I think if you can use empathy again, when people express opinions you don't like, to work through and go and figure out where that opinion's coming from. It'll make your culture better.
Yeah. I love that you brought that up, because there's a lot of times where, I have a lot of experience in a lot of areas and I don't always talk about it.
Right.
I just don't. I've just never been like that. I've never been one walking into a room and just saying, oh, look what I did. Look at I just have never been like that.
Right.
But I can probably tell you just with a handful of instances that people have asked about me, or they've, asked me questions about things that I'm doing or going deeper.
And you're talking about peers.
A lot of peers that way. Otherwise, I do have my platforms that I do online, all of that, and my speaking and, entertainment that I've done. But it's really rare that people really just take the emphasis off themselves and ask you, like, really what is going on. And when we were talking about listening and toward the end of the year, it's probably one of the most stressful times of the year with people personally as well, going through family issues. I mean, what do you do on holidays? Where are you going to go? Do you have to have Uncle Tom come in again? That sort of thing, or Uncle Jess, or Uncle, Jake, whatever we have that we have to invite to the dinner, family dinner, or such and such happening, or where you're going to go. And so there's all of those things intermingled with thinking, how am I going to pay for Christmas? How am I going to pay for these holidays? How am I going to, get through all of this? Plus, how am I going to keep my business going, or, as an employee or even a business owner, all of those things, there's just more stress.
Yeah. And so what she's getting at is all of your employees, besides trying to manage your customers, you and your vendors are also managing all of their family issues, all at the same time.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And it's a lot. So what we're suggesting is, you just step back and appreciate that.
Right.
That doesn't mean that you step off the pedal and don't try to finish hard.
Right.
But, while you're going through this, recognize that they're balancing a lot of stuff.
Right.
And I think, first week in January is a great time to say thank you.
Yeah.
And, you don't have to give everybody bonuses or something like that, but, come up with creative ways to say thank you. I think just pulling them in the office and saying thank you would go a long ways.
Yeah.
But, I also think a staff meeting, on top of that, where you appreciate everything. And, it just give everybody a chance to breathe that first week of January. And when Friday comes, to say, okay, it's the second week of January coming up next week, we start hitting it hard again. All right. So get ready to strap on your helmets, because we're getting after it again. We all know what the plans are. We need to execute, and I appreciate you. So let's go. Yeah. Something like that. But I hopefully you're getting the idea that empathy is about putting yourself in somebody else's shoes.
Yeah. Like the golden rule.
And treat others the way you like to be treated.
Right.
And, I think that'll go a long ways to finishing your year strong. And again, we are not suggesting, not stepping on the pedal and pushing for the end. Right. It's just, I think, being cognitively aware of all of the things that's going on in your employees' lives while you're pushing them super hard can go a long ways.
It sure can. So. Yeah. Great points. And when we talk about being looking ahead with our planning, as a business owner, as a small business or an entrepreneur, whoever you are, large business, you want to have an idea of what next year looks like. I mean, you've got that plan, sketched out. Yeah. But you do want it as a way of appreciation to those that you are working with, at least part of your team, to be able to be a part of the process too, bringing them in. But I remember even back when I was in college and just, I kind of got pushed into the teaching area. I was performing really everywhere. But I ended up doing my first student teaching, passed up a big tour, but I felt very, very, committed to it. So, but I remember this wonderful master teacher telling me, you need to keep a file of all of the affirmative notes that you get. And actually, I still have that file. I still have those notes from kids, from parents. I have the little booklets. I have kept them all these years because I I have taught in, even from the university. I've taught a lot of places, plus I have also performed a lot of places. I keep those notes that people jot to me. I've kept the note from the person where I played at a celebration of life that the song meant so much to them. They wrote me a handwritten note afterwards. I never expect that. It was a job for me and I had never met them before, but it meant so much. I go back and read some of those notes. Those are the things that I have kept. And as a person, an individual entrepreneurial type, see, I come from that background. You come from more the corporate background. But that means a lot to me to go back on those. And
I think your point is it means a lot to everybody.
Everybody, yes.
Expressions of appreciation, especially formal ones where they get written down, are immeasurable. And the caricature of Elon Musk in my mind, and probably yours, is that he works everybody really hard and never appreciates anything. He'll pay you super well, and that's supposed to be your form of appreciation. So that caricature, if you introduce the idea of written appreciation into that kind of workplace, just imagine, what the difference, would be.
Yeah. Yeah. And because I still send out snail mail, postcards, and a lot of times I will jot a little note on them. I get a lot of comments from those. People don't get those anymore, hardly. I mean, it's very unique now. It takes time. I will admit it does take time. I have a system, but it does take time to do that. But it's, I think it's very, very important on both ends to be able to get appreciation. It keeps us going, just those little comments like, oh, you look great today. Oh, thank you. Those sort of little comments for each other. Whether you're in a relationship, whether you're in a business, whatever, is very important.
Yeah. And something I think Debbie and I do well is we listen to one another's opinions.
Yeah.
I certainly appreciate the fact that she respects my opinion, and I
really do.
Hope she feels the same way.
I do. I really do.
So, just having a culture where opinions are appreciated and they're free to be expressed.
Right.
Really makes a big difference.
It really does. So let's focus a little bit. We've really talked a lot about that empathy and on the importance of planning, because and in the fourth quarter, you should really have an idea of where you want to be at the end of next year. What do you want your life to look like? What do you want your business to look like? What do you want your culture to look like? Are there changes that you want to make? You want to be able to include your team somehow in some of this if you have a team that you want to work with that way. But that is really important not to be sidelined. December 31st, you've got all of the records. I mean, a lot of stuff stops at that point at the end of our year. Some companies have a year, they've got a fiscal end, which is a little bit different. But still, there's a lot of things that stop December 31st. So in that planning, in looking ahead and what you want your life to look like, do you have some comments on that from your end? We've planned as a couple as well with our family. We've planned
vacations.
I have travel planned already for next year. I scheduled those in. I schedule in conferences. I schedule in some of the work already. That I have as a freelancer too, and part of that work of my work. So there's all of that, but the planning is very important. So
and part of planning is reflecting. And
good.
So a natural time if you're on a calendar year to reflect is sometime in January. So you have to first get your books done, see what actually happened.
Yes.
Reflect on why it happened, either good or bad. Were there things we could have done better? Were there just sudden, things that happened in the economy that you couldn't anticipate that aren't going to happen again?
Yeah.
You reflect first, you evaluate second, and then you plan third.
Right.
And something that Peter Drucker used to always say is, nothing gets managed until it gets measured.
Right.
And, So you've got to look hard at your year-end books, measure it, because that's the only way you can manage, everything going forward.
Right.
The other aspect of that too is that your employees need to have measurable aspects in their job in order for you to manage it.
Right.
You can't say you don't like the way they go about their job because that is not measurable.
Right. Right.
Unless it's in terms of, hours or, certain results. But, even sales results are difficult to demand because, there's just so many factors that are involved.
Right.
But the point is in order to manage stuff, you've got to measure it.
Right.
And
very important.
And so it goes back to reflection, evaluation, and planning. So
yeah. Data is important. Looking at the actual numbers, and we've talked about this with the wonderful interview on taxes at the end of the month of. Let's see, I think that's coming November with Tatiana. So if you haven't heard that one, or if it's coming up. But, you have to really look realistically at the numbers, and it's, very, very important. You have this window of time to do. And that's really important for me as an entrepreneur, because I don't have a bookkeeper. You do. You end up taking in charge of many of our taxes, for which I'm very, very thankful, and getting a lot of those ready. But I give you the numbers. I have to account. I'm very, very specific. It's important for me to know where the marketing dollars are going, where my production costs are going, all of that. I used to not do it as much. I used to be just, the creative. And I'd make enough to, cover everything and more. But it's really important now at this stage there's so much competition. So you really need to know where you're at, where you're going to go, see what's working and expand on that. That's a really important principle. So,
right.
So any other things to add to this? I think
I think we did good. We might want to, in the future, maybe do a podcast on examples of how to show appreciation. But
that's a great idea. We will do that. So coming up next year, look forward to that, examples, because there are great examples of those that are really heart-rending, just wonderful, that I think we can all learn from. So thank you all for joining us. Make sure that you click into halftimesuccess.com. It's launched now. We are adding vendors to that all the time with wonderful as much as we know, trusted, because a lot of them I have small businesses on there as well with podcast guests that have wonderful courses. They have wonderful offerings. So make sure you click into those. And some of the wonderful vendors that I work with, especially with software and all of those.
Those are some great opportunities.
They're great opportunities. Yeah, they really have been. So make sure you check that out. Easy, halftimesuccess.com. You don't need to, you can just check them out. That's all you need to do. And make sure you're getting our weekly newsletter as well, goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter, that you get. All those links will be in this article as well and in the show notes. Thanks again. I love this format. So we're be able to be here with you together once a month, which is always fun. And I will look forward to being with you again next time. So bye-bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us. It is because of our wonderful listeners like you that we keep going strong week after week. We'd love it if you'd share and follow us to not miss a single show, and even write a review. You can also find all of our articles, products, and links at womenathalftime.com.